Pietrek and National Rums of Jamaica. We have, as you can see, a full lineup of some of the most knowledgeable people in Jamaican rum right now. We have Neil Glasgow, Martha Miller, Robert Gordon, Kevin Barnett. I'm going to let Matt introduce you to them a little more in depth in a moment. But before we jump in, my name's Will Hookinga from Zavvy.co. And real quick, just want to kind of give you a little guided tour of the best way to interact with us throughout the presentation today, if this is your first time joining us. So as you've probably already noticed, on the right, there's a chat window. Feel free to tell us where you're joining from. I've already seen people from all over the world, California, Suriname, Florida. So worldwide audience right now, really cool to see. If you have a question at any point during the presentation, you'll want to enter that in the question box at the bottom of your screen. So you'll see a little button down there that says ask a question. They're all going to save some time, 10 minutes or so at the end of the presentation to do some audience Q&A. So that's the best place to put your question if you want us to see it. And also share the event. There's a button at the top right where you can share, invite friends to join us. But with all that said, I'm going to turn things over to Matt Pietrek right now, who you may know from cocktailwonk.com. Matt is also the community envoy for WORSPA, which is part of what brought us all here together today. So Matt, tell us what we're in for today.
Thanks, Will. Super excited to be here again. This is our third Zavvy WORSPA collaboration, bringing together the rum producers of the West Indies Rum and Spirits Producers Association to sort of take people behind the scenes, to give them a little more backstory than you might get from, like a brand ambassador or something like that. Like, we know there's a lot of rum enthusiasts out there who maybe can't get to a distillery, especially now, but they really want to see, what's it look like, what are the production processes, what are the different rums they make? How are they made? See the people who make making the rum. And so we've already done so far. We've done Demerara Distillers Limited. We've done St. Lucia Distillers. Now we have National Rums of Jamaica, who are the people behind the legendary Long Pond Distillery, as well as Clarendon and the Monymusk brand. And so that's where we're going to dive in super deep today. And then just as a pitch, coming up, we have some more amazing distilleries from that are WORSPA members coming up in future weeks. So we're keeping this going. So that's enough for me. Very quickly introduce the four people you see there on the screen there. First, let's have Neil and Martha introduce themselves briefly. Tell what you do.
Ladies first. Okay, so I'm Martha Miller. I'm the Deputy CEO of National Rums of Jamaica. I currently manage the finance portfolio and the commercial portfolio, and do my best to support Neil in pulling this all together.
And Neil?
My name is Neil Glasgow, and I'm the CEO of National Rums of Jamaica. I have a technical background so that the operations division of the company comes up through me. I'm grateful for the support of my deputy CEO.
Okay. And Robert?
Well, hi, I'm Robert Gordon, the Quality Assurance Manager, and I double up as the company's blender as well. As you may realize, in charge of the company's products and to ensure that quality is maintained at all costs. And of course, innovation and new product development comes under my portfolio as well.
Okay. And Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Barnett. I'm currently the plant manager for Long Pond Distillers Limited, and I have been working with National Rums of Jamaica for over 19 years.
Excellent. So before we jump into the slides, I just want to say it's great to see some of you again. It was 4 years ago, I think, that I visited Jamaica, and we managed to be able to sneak into the Long Pond Distillery. And Kevin graciously took us around. As the story goes, we were told, well, maybe you can just peek your head in the door and take a quick look. But Kevin took us all throughout the distillery, and it was great to wander around amongst those like beautiful old double retort pot stills and stuff. stuff. And so it's sort of great to sort of revisit it. And of course, I also met Neil when I was there as well. So, okay, let's get started. Let's bring up the slides, Will. Okay. Neil and Martha, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Matt. We at National Rums, we're very, very proud to be a part of this series. We hope that our offering today you will find both interesting and instructive. So let me just continue through the slide back. Could I have the next slide, please? Okay, let me just tell you a little bit about the company. National Rums was incorporated in 1980 as a wholly owned subsidiary of the National Sugar Company. The objective around National Rums, its primary reason for existing was to manage the distillery assets of the sugar company. This was so because at that time, the sugar company was having the sugar industry was having a torrid time. In fact, some would say that it was in a state of incipient collapse, and therefore it was necessary to liberate the more profitable distilleries from that. So that under that scenario, National Rums controlled distillery assets. The next big deadline was in 2006, when the government sought to strengthen that situation by divesting 2/3 of their holding in National Rums. 1/3 went to Demerara Distillers out of Guyana, and the final third to West Indies Rum Distillers out of Barbados. So the new ownership structure brought a lot of energy, capital, and vision, and set National Rums on a new path to excellence. So rationalizing the company, now we have 3 operating sites, namely Clarendon Distillers, Long Pond Distillers, and the Innswood Waring warehousing site. So, can I have the next slide, please? Part of the vision was to build on the brands that were launched in 2011. So we will come back to that later in the presentation with some more details about our brands and our expectations of those brands. Next slide, please. Okay, so the first of the 3 operating sites, let me just paraphrase the slide for you. Clarendon Distillers has a very deep history with Monymusk estate that goes back to the 1700s. But over the years, there have been a series of ownership transfers, and it landed in the hands of the Jamaican government around about 1976. 1978, there was a change in name to Clarendon Distillers, and the most important date, 1980, was when, as I just said, Clarendon was transferred to National Rums of Jamaica, followed by the change in ownership in 2006. Now, in 2007, there was a monetization program funded by the EU, which Clarendon Distillers benefited immensely from. And so, coming out of that program, we were able to put up brand new 4-column still, new pot still, boilers, steam turbines, bundle treatment plants, water treatment systems.
Right. And I'll jump in really quick here. I think you'll see a lot of distilleries went through sort of upgrades and improvement around that time because of that EU program, and it was WRSPA that helped facilitate that program.
Okay, thanks, man.
Correct. Okay.
Could I have the next slide, please? So what you're looking at is a beautiful 4-column still that was erected in 2009. The next slide shows the same plan from another angle. You can see the 4 columns more closely. We have 4 columns, the wash column, the aldehyde column, the rectification column, and the methanol column. Now, the installed capacity of this plant is approximately 12 million liters per year. We're running it now at about 9 million liters. Next slide, please. So that on the left is a new district chemical pot still that was installed along with the new column plant back in 2009. And on the right, there's the older Vendome still, which was manufactured in 1998. Those two pots together have an installed capacity of 3.5 million liters of rum per year, pot rum, but we actually run it currently at 3 million liters per year. So the combined plant.
I was saying, those are both double retort stills, correct?
Double retort stills, yes. Yes. Next slide, please. So the fermented wash feeding into these plants on the left, there's a pot still fermentation plant. We have 24 of those, each containing 95,000 liters of fermented wash to feed the pots. On the right, you will see 4 fermenting vats that can hold 200,000 liters of wash. That feeds the new column we just saw earlier. Okay, so moving on, could I have the next slide? Moving on from Clarendon to the second operating site, the iconic Long Pond Distillery that has a very pedigreed history going back to 1753. Things went swimmingly until 1977. The distillery came into the possession of the government, and in 1980, like Clarendon, it was transferred to National Rums. Later on, though, we had a very torrid time from 2010 through to the present. In 2010, we had to cease the operation of the column stills at Long Pond because we had issues with dunder disposal. These issues continued to plague us through the following 4 years because the regulatory authorities had disallowed the disgorging of dunder into the environment. By the time we found a solution, which is fertigation, which I'll tell you a little bit more about later, in 2016, based on that solution and using that modality, we were able to restart the distillery in 2016. However, in 2018, we had a horrific fire that consumed a 250-year-old heavy rum vat house. In 2019, we were able to continue the production on a partial basis, making lighter rum. And in 2020, we rebuilt that vat house, and we expect to start production out of that facility in the third quarter of this year. Can I have the next slide, please? So I'm going to ask Kevin, plant manager for Long Pond, to just take us through the pictorials over the next couple of slides. Kevin?
Thanks, Neil. All right, just before I elaborate on the slides here, I just want to point out that the fire in 2018 was very devastating for Long Pond. But notwithstanding this, we also saw a great opportunity, an opportunity to integrate a 250-year-old process technology into a modern infrastructure. And this was done by constructing a modern steel frame building furnished with oak vats, oak gutters, and wooden catwalks. In addition to that, the new vat house was designed to be environmentally friendly. It was adequately sized with adequately sized bunds. It had a structurally sound. It's structurally sound and with improved capacity. The picture on your left is a picture of the old vat house fermentation building, 250-year-old vat house fermentation building with fermentation taking place. At the right, we have the new reconstructed vat house steel frame building that is approximately 95% complete right now. At the bottom, you'll see the opportunity that we seize after the fire.
Thanks, Kevin. Could we have the next slide, please?
So
Kevin,
on the next slide,
continue?
Sure. On the next slide, you'll see our #1 pot still, which is our John Doerr pot still, built in 1983, still fully functional and able to produce the highest esters that we produce, which is up to 1600. You also see on the top right, our beer well, which is now being used as a temporary fermenter as a result of the events of the fire. And below, you'll see our cane acid tank in use.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. On the next slide, the third operating site that we have is the Innswood plant. It's a much more recent vintage, however. That plant initially was built in the 50s. In 1980, like the other plants, it was transferred to National Rums. 1996, though, the distillery was shuttered due to a fallout in markets, and National Rums had to rationalize their distillation capacity across their other distilleries. And so in 2002, it became an agent facility for our aged rums. So from 2006 to the present, it has been operating A, as an aging facility, B, as a blending facility for branded rums, and it was also a base for our denatured rum operations. Yeah. So that's what we do at Innswood.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, during maybe the 60s and 70s, there was also gin being made there as well. I think we saw an old gin still, pot still gin there. Am I remembering correctly?
Yes, there was an arrangement with some manufacturers out of the UK that had an arrangement to come and make gin at Innswood, yes.
Cool, okay, keep going.
Okay. So the next couple of slides, I'm going to ask Robert to come in and tell us about the distinguishing features of the various rums we make both at Clarendon and Longpond.
Okay, thanks.
So over to you, Robert.
Yes, thank you. Now, as you can see, that's a sensory wheel, which is familiar to all rum producers. And I may add that products that are produced at NRJ's two operated sites, which are Longpond and CDL, have sensory notes that are common to most of what is displayed there on the sensory wheel. Typically, the flavors are fruity. You get a lot of tropical fruits, banana, pineapple, cherry, citrus, to name a few, and a lot of floral arrangements. Floral bouquets, not arrangements. Next slide, please. Oh, that's just a pic of me doing what I do best. Next slide, please. So the Clarendon marks, this is that display of the marks that are produced at Clarendon. The first three are column still marks. The MBS and the CRVM are produced typically utilizing a light fermentation process, 32 to 36 hours. The product is attained basically by just manipulating the parameter settings on the column still. As you can see, the MBS is has a slight creamy, fruity sensory note, whilst the CRVM is fruity with a combination of sweet flavors. The MSR, however, undergoes same light fermentation, but the fermentation time lasts anywhere between 5 to 7 days. And that is to ensure that we have a certain amount of secondary fermentation taking place. that will yield the unique banana flavor of this product. And also the distillation process is attained by manipulating again the parameter settings on the still. The rest of the marks are pot still marks that were displayed earlier in a few slides, double retort pot stills. The first few are from light fermentation, no cane acid utilized. However, the last one, which is our MLC, it's a heavy pot fermentation product. No dunder or muck is used. However, cane acid is utilized here. And the fermentation time takes about 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. The marks that range in between the light and heavy are just a blend of both the light pot and heavy pot products.
Yeah, and just a quick note there on you mentioned the cane acid. I have a story that I will be publishing after this, telling a little bit more about that and sort of its relationship to muck and dunder and ester formation. So